The Sad Part, a play by Donovan O'Malley.
I am Daniel. I'm 23 years old.
I am Mr. Young. I'm 45.
I'm Hymen, age 21.
I'm Nannie. I'm 45.
The scene is a well-furnished room equipped with bar.
It is less than silly and more than mad to irrelate the good from bad.
And hardly right to misapply our foremost feelings in a lie.
Well, hello, boys. I'm here for fun. Now, who will be the lucky one?
She's here for pleasure.
Here for lust.
And you're the only ones I trust.
You must have a drink.
I will, thanks.
And sit down.
Join us in The Sad Part.
I was walking down the street and walking fast, and the dampness was creeping into my bones and my ears were aching. And I would turn quickly around and catch a glimpse of disappearing eyes and hot dog stands. What is the sad part? Oh, it's stupid when one's shoes shrink and more than annoying. I loved games before I became so aptly trained in the sweet art of nothing whatever.
Lighter than a distilled feather.
Which is light.
However, we are not playing games.
We are seriously searching for reasons.
Oh, hardly worth saying. We don't need them.
And this is no comedy. And if it is the sad part.
It is good to know we are trusted.
Oh, I hate the touch of men.
We won't touch
I
you.
hate the touch of men. Oh, not you. Oh, if you touch me, it will not worry me, will not fret me. Well, touch me, if you like.
We would.
Say I.
I would touch you to talk to you.
To be convinced?
He would be hard to be convinced.
I expect this would be necessary.
And that is a joke.
And meant to be funny.
But you don't always realize just how funny it is. Well, any joke can be much funnier if it is a funny joke to begin with. And funnier yet if it is a joke on someone special. And especially that someone doesn't realize it is a joke. You see, when at least two other people are aware of the direction of the
Which
joke...
leaves one unaware.
Oh, when we're dealing with groups of three, in that case, yes, it's safe to say that. It's quite safe, yes.
And, who is the joke on tonight?
Oh, Daniel, of course.
Well, now I'll be. The joke's on me. And Mr. Young and Nannie, see, and I'm the dense one of the
It's
three.
usually much funnier, but this will do. Touch me now and see.
Where shall I touch you?
Don't.
Nannie, where shall I touch you?
Touch me high on the thigh. I hate it. Touch me here.
She is unkind.
Oh, do unwind. Mr. Young, your dear friend's song is hardly sung.
Sung far sweeter without Nannie's questionable aid.
Let me decide how I'll be made.
I think Mr. Young resents me, and it's splendid because I have so little to be defended. Every time I turn around suddenly, I see things I'm not meant to see.
What things, what sort of things do you see?
Poses. I'm deeply distressed because I recognize poses. And it's not nearly so much fun that way, you know, when people really mean what they say.
But that is not a pose.
It isn't? Oh, people whisper that to me when I'm only half listening. One ear says, come in and be deceived. The other ear says, well, stay out, fall in love with a myth.
It's terribly disconcerting when my conscience starts perverting and keeps me from asserting
The gentler feelings from the outside in rather than from the inside out as I'm most prone to do. When I meet a person, it's all the way, straight through the grey matter to the savage white meat underneath. The sweet, uncomplicated, safe, dangerous, unstrings attached, savage!
Your drink is down, Daniel. Have another.
Ignore her.
Let me pour you another.
I'm at a friendly party down the hall, and I just stopped in to say hello. And how are you, Nannie? I expected to find you here. Rita said you were bored stiff and rumbling, mumbling. Where is the pee-pee caca?
The green door.
Oh, thank you. Just a short sit, and then more news.
She wears nice clothes, and when it snows, rubber booties and fleece-lined hose.
Now that is what I mean. That is a pose. A simple bitch who darts down the hall to spy and lie.
Who is she deceiving?
Oh, I'm afraid the joke is on Daniel again. Oh, she is too witty. Not now, but before and later. Oh, that is her plan, to twist your head, Daniel, and make you forget who you are, because she knows what you are.
What am I?
Oh, you are principally untried. I mean, properly untried.
But I've tried so hard, I've cried.
You're pure as far as we're concerned. Well, Mr. Young has a rusty needle in your all-too-unconvoluted grey matter. Oh, pray, cast it aside. Take that septic stiletto from your flesh and blush for the first time.
Have another drink, Nannie. I'm sure Daniel knows what he's about. He is 23.
23 golden years. Oh, kiss me, statue roll.
Back again! When one has splashed, one must be purged. urged. Can Hymen sit by
How
Daniel?
can Hymen be thwarted? Let me count the ways.
Sit here, sweet lady.
Thank you, Daniel. Now listen to Nannie count the ways. She knows them all.
Please, Hymen.
That's what they all say. Please, Hymen, pause, Hymen, pause, Hymen. Has Nannie been talking about hot dog stands again? She has. I know. She has the hot dog stand look.
I detest them.
Why did you want me to touch you,
Oh,
Nannie?
it was a pose. Oh, God, Daniel, must the joke always be on you?
I warned you, Daniel.
He warned you,
He
Daniel.
warned you, Daniel.
Silence. I have a poem. A few salty hours here, a few short breaths, a bit of steam in the air, as proof that I am there. All there is of me is gone with you to where you are, and your smile from afar, behind the night, is what I have. The touch of your eyes on my cheek, enough to butterfly away the greyest day. A bit of steam in the air, the only proof that I am there where you are not.
They are both asleep.
They are both asleep.
You weep while the creeps sleep. Sweet Hymen, safe behind her cotton curtains, clutching her cups and saucers, and saving her dirty little tea leaves to read ruin into insignificance. And Nannie sleeps, full of monotonous half-realizations, and anxious, preposterous propensities for capacities that would gag a maggot. Nannie is not a person. Hymen is not a person. They are ghosts. Ghosts with reasons. And the reasons are not for the seeing.
Not seen.
By you or me or any man, we do not fit within their plan of conquest of our minds.
My mind?
Your mind is touchless by those unsympathetic fingers. Touchless and free of unsympathetic attachments.
Why am I touchless?
They are sleeping now.
When they awake?
I would have told you by then. It is a short story, but will take a long time to tell.
If they awake?
They will tell it for me.
Tell me now, then.
I'll mix you a drink. Please smile.
Tell me now, then.
Why they fell asleep?
She is here. Hymen is here, close asleep, and pressing gently into my side.
She was not interested or moved by your poetry.
She is peaceful, and her cheeks are pinker than her lips.
Her lips are white. It is not difficult for her cheeks to be pinker.
Tell me before they awaken.
Tell you why they are ghosts and why it doesn't matter. All the reasons.
From A to Z.
Reason capital A. This is the sad part.
And not meant to be funny.
It is sad to love.
How confused you are when they are sleeping.
They are here in this room, breathing.
It is partly sad, the sad part, because you can only hem and haw and saw on the same old piece of wood. The sad part is what you never could, or what you knowing never should. Hymen's elbow in my side assures me, and nothing here awake allures me.
It isn't funny when honey has aged, and the mold is old, be it clovered or saged, and the bees are fleas, and the wax is sold, and the queen is caged.
You are awake now?
I am awake.
I beg Daniel to repeat himself.
It is all different now, Mr. Young.
Oh, Hymen is sleeping. Let us remove her.
To where she will be more comfortable.
Yes, to where she will be more comfortable.
And less trouble.
She's no trouble.
She is pressing into your side.
Gently.
And too happily. I know Hymen.
She's a tricky number, getting kicks in phony slumber. She's more than satisfied, she's pressing Daniel's side. But Daniel isn't wise enough, or he'd surmise that Daniel would be strung if it weren't for Mr. Young.
Well, let us mix Daniel the drink of drinks, and I will hold his hand while he tells us stories out of school.
I have stories out of school. Stories about people I've loved and who are dead.
What sort of people did you love, Daniel?
Almost everyone. I loved to love, and everyone was a major target of my affection. My affection was spread thin over a large area. here and there to people who mattered, and there and here to people who really mattered, people I loved thoroughly and heedless of needless criticism. I continued to pour out my affection and closer feelings to so many that at last I ran out of takers, or affection. I can't remember which it was. Eventually, I ran out of both.
What of the people who were dead?
I found I couldn't love them anymore.
Because?
Because they were dead. But the main trouble was that due to the mass distribution of my love, the quality, it was said, was necessarily inferior. It really wasn't, you know. I loved them all equally and as well. Now some are in heaven, some are in hell. A beautiful girl with lemon blue hair, a handsome young man, tall, clean and fair, a gentle old lady with a playful black dog, a taxi cab driver who died in the fog,
And a middle-aged woman with the face of a frog.
with heavy jowls and coarse features, and sweet hands that planted roses, and large ears that listened, and broad lips that said shh when someone was sleeping.
That is beautiful, Daniel. Beautiful and touching. And I'm going to hold both of your hands and kiss you on the lips. Right on the lips, as much as I hate it. Oh, you deserve it. Bend close to me. Let Hymen's head rest of its own accord, or let it seek the lowest level, and bend to me to receive my kiss. Or let me touch the Daniel who never existed, never was here at all. Let me love in a body I never sustained, one that hasn't been drained and filled with 4 decades of Paul. You think it peculiar I admit my age? Honey from the sage is the finest honey.
And that is a joke.
And meant to be funny.
Oh, Hymen is awake. We won't have to displace her. Daniel, tell us more stories, pretty softly poetic things. Or tell a story especially for Hymen.
Shall I tell you about the first time I began to suspect that people held my affection suspect? Who said, "Your affections are beginning to be held suspect by myself as well as others. We seriously doubt your sincerity and often ask ourselves questions, to which only you have the answers. And since your sentences have been so choppy of late, it is hard for us to ascertain whether you are withholding the answers purposefully or are incoherent from the exhaustion of too many empathetic obligations. If you are withholding them purposefully, you are being selfish, and if you are suffering from simple exhaustion, you are unrealistic. Of course, there is the possibility that you don't have the answers. In that case, it is obvious that you have been deluding us from the very beginning. Therefore, any affectionate ties are herewith broken."
What a terrible, terrible pity. Did you have the answers, Daniel?
I didn't at that time know the questions. The answers were always there.
What a shameful, shameful pity. But if you had the answers, Daniel, why did you have to wait for the questions? Why didn't you answer them without waiting for the questions?
I was heart-sick, and my eyes were tired. My ears and legs were tired. I was guilty and ashamed for cheating them.
But I don't understand, sweet Daniel, how you were cheating them.
I loved them. I owed it to them.
That is a strange philosophy with too much responsibility.
Love brings with it more responsibility.
I call it sticky. A most insidious brand of sticky. I can bear only a temporary arrangement with the most transient individuals for short periods and infrequently.
Habits were live today. Time proves to our dismay, always done to pay. Nannie, what has that got to do with withholding important information?
It is very hard to gather valid material in my sort of situation. So naturally I would be more than anxious to latch on to any available facts coming from responsible sources and would resent intentional denial of said facts.
Put simply and brutally.
I wasn't being brutal. I was looking after special interests and became confused in a most natural way.
Daniel must now tell a story for Nannie, who can't seem to see out anymore, is shut behind a door, in her mind is entwined in the solitary confinement of herself, and needs a swift corrective to achieve her vague
Oh,
objective.
Mr. Young is right. I am temporarily beginning to lose that keen sense of propriety I've always prided myself in. The temporarily unfamiliar resurgence of strange feelings has momentarily clouded perceptiveness. And, sweet Daniel, I can't more emphatically stress how foolishly I behaved in duress.
It was a senseless striking out, It's well appointed and an effective showstopper.
It was in poor taste and did sad harm.
The effects of which will become increasingly apparent.
But no more abhorrent than your own unseemly attitudes, Mr. Young.
I think now is the time to touch Nannie, Daniel.
I once held both her hands.
Brass bands are in order. Nannie has fallen from grace.
Nannie has fallen from grace.
And she held both my hands.
Nannie can never climb back.
Never climb back.
Who is the joke on now?
The joke is on you, Daniel.
Nannie has slipped off her track. Nannie is blowing her stack.
Whisper. Please whisper. I'm not irritated, not angry, simply sorry. Sorrowfully simple and not able to recognize poses.
And I'm sorry I've hurt you.
What I need is a conversational arrangement to deny my sweet estrangement with that well-known power I've grown sour of, the big above.
Sometimes when the sun is shining, I am cold, and when the fire bricks are warm, I am cold, and when I walk by the river, I am more than cold.
You are cold because you are old.
Cold enough for being old, but colder still when soul's been sold.
It would be hard to find a bar. Here's Nannie through.
Don't you think the side effects can be worse, far worse than the facts themselves?
They can be devastating and worse than bad. A sadder bad than you and I and others would care to admit.
Destructive disquiet stemming from reasons of which I have no idea breeds hard, uncompromising despair.
Hard to share despair.
That comes of unreasonable arrears and makes it impossible to face the face I see in mirrors.
Mirrors should be painted black when one is young to forestall serious consequences in later life.
For reasons other than obvious, Nannie.
I hear a horse clacking in the street and his master is a junk collector.
It is also safe to say that I am afraid of obvious reasons.
I never find reasons obvious. My reasons are developed for unobvious reasons.
Oh, we don't need reasons.
Daniel needs reasons for his own explanation of Daniel's misuse.
Mr. Young needs reasons toward the more strategic methods of Daniel's abuse.
I need reasons for sorting.
Assorted reasons are distorted reasons. Have another drink, Daniel. And you, Hymen? Nannie?
We
won't, thank you.
Yellow blue sky, yellow blue beach. People are climbing just out of my reach. With my hand in the sand, I burrow for pleasure, and stealthily not to impinge on their leisure, I grab a quick look and go back to my book. Nannie sings a sad song. Were I as sad as Nannie, I would sing a song just like that.
A long, sad song, part of which should be interspersed with melancholy merriment.
The kind one hears when one has had a couple of beers alone. The kind one sings when one carries on a one-way conversation on the telephone. The kind one thinks when one lies prone with poor muscle tone and a stale scone.
Nannie sings a sad song.
A sad song.
A sad song. Nannie's pinkish fingers play tic-tac on her book.
Nannie sings a sad song.
A sad song.
A sad song. Nannie doesn't rate a second look.
I paid my price and I'm contrite. I've been bad twice and twice I've paid. I cannot always be responsible and cannot continue to meet the punishment you meet me so profusely.
Better to behave, Nannie.
Things can become so twisted. For the simplest well-meant thought manages to be mangled and staggers about breaking things and putting pressures in improper places. The sensitive places where it can do the most harm. Places where it was never meant to go.
Nannie never meant to hurt. Nannie didn't want to hurt.
When it got there, it was so deformed, so ashamed and completely unable to perform its proper function. Not even really conscious of where it was because it had forgotten who it was. All it could perceive was that it was in a vulnerable place and it could only linger there and be its unknown self with the harmful results you've just witnessed. Mr. Young, it's time you mixed another drink.
Daniel, Hymen?
We will, thank you.
Lily walked slowly to the farmhouse. seeing things she wasn't meant to see, hearing things she wasn't meant to hear, and took to doing things that she wasn't meant to do. She was naturally influenced, naturally led, and easily began to experience experiences that were once beyond her ken. And she said thoughtfully, later, that the trees were greener, and the flowers brighter, and her appetites keener, and her capacities greater. But when she got to the farmhouse, she didn't recognize it, didn't know where she was. So she left and walked down the lane and got lost in the unfamiliar forest.
How long have I been holding your hand, Hymen?
Since I went to sleep at your side. Since your sweet poem, Daniel. I dreamt about your poem. I held it hard, just behind my eyes, and frail images soothed me. At that time, the prospect of parties receded, became distant and strangely unrewarding to think about. I became conscious of only your thoughts, hard pressed on the front of my mind, and I went to sleep. To dream.
Of what did you dream, Hymen?
I dreamt of large fountains splashing champagne, of cocktail hour on a transocean plain, women in gowns of black velvet and laces, and men in top hats in prominent places.
So you dreamt of parties after all. Groups of people being entertained and entertaining. What a surprising girl you are. How to the point. Stooping swiftly to anoint Daniel's toe with the oil of your evasive persuasiveness. Saying one thing and dreaming another. It isn't fair. Oh, Daniel can, of course, be beguiled by your straightforwardness, your too obvious ambiguity. But I am not deceived, not fooled by the low-quality wool with which you attempt to obscure Daniel's bright mirrored visions of yourself. An altered ally speaks from those pretty lips, that sucrose smile. And you will be used to such ends. Hymen, look to the right and to the left, but never straight ahead. Listen with only half a mind to his dark whispers. Save yourself for yourself.
Nannie is harmless, ineffectual ammunition for an antiquated cannon.
What does she mean, Mr. Young?
Nothing you should care to understand.
I simply stated a dream, told the details accurately, melodiously, poetically, for Daniel's appreciation and enjoyment.
Hymen told the truth. What is so wrong about telling the truth?
Such a nasty truth.
Nevertheless, it was the truth, Nannie.
I want to have a dog, to walk him in the rain and cold, and take him home and warm him up, and have him there for when I'm old.
She wants to have a dog, a poodle with a curly head, a stupid, loyal, lovely thing, to tie its ribbons and curl its hair, and have it sleep beneath her bed.
She wants to have a dog, a husky, healthy, furry hound, to bark at burglars and chase off men, and soothe her when her mind's unsound.
She wants to have a dog, a simple, unaffected thing, to own a pet, to care for it and feed it well, to dry it off when it gets wet.
She'll have to buy her dog.
I can afford it. Oh, now let the past be the past. I'll tell you a funny story. One of the few times the joke was on me. I will try, but some things are too funny for words. Well, like me, for example. Well, I make no strenuous attempt at humour. In fact, I've been repeatedly accused of being purposefully sour for more than an hour at a single stretch. But I think you should know this. Well, the wretch who made this dour accusation exhibited no hesitation at taking advantage of my anti-amiability, and immediately afterward commented enthusiastically on my notable facility. Now, isn't that funny?
Nannie, that's precious. It reminds me of a man I know, a delightful fellow, but he gave the strangest impression when he walked. He always looked as if he were walking downhill.
On level places?
Even when he was walking uphill, he seemed to be walking downhill. I constantly expected him to disappear into the ground, first his ankles, then his legs and hips, then shoulders, and last his sad, serene smile. He looked as though he would, but he never did, disappear as I thought he should. I thought, you can't go on like that. But he did. Remarkable man.
He should have been a mountain climber.
He is a barrister. He has never lost a case.
I can do 20 push-ups.
I've seen you do 50.
No, I can do 20.
20 push-ups sounds enough. It's ample proof you do stuff.
It's really not sufficient.
Daniel, do you like to dance?
I've danced a bit.
Twist.
No, ballet lessons when I was a boy.
They're twisting at the party down the hall.
I could try. Good night, Nannie. Our talk has been pleasant and rewarding in the broadest sense.
Oh, good night.
Good night, Mr.
Young.
I've seen him do 50 push-ups.
Perhaps it's better to keep our secrets to ourselves. Aren't you tired of being equivocal, Mr. Young? I am exhausted, and I am lonely. I am lonely.
Well, good night, Nannie. I'm afraid I have a rather difficult case tomorrow.
Mr. Young, do I notice you're limping?
Good night, Nannie.
Good night, Mr. Young. Here's a comfy chair. I'll sit here. Or perhaps Hymen will need a ride home. It's more than funny when honey has aged, and the mould is old, be it clovered or saged, and the bees are fleas, and the wax is sold, and the queen is caged.
I think this will probably work.